The Cost of a Block. I used to think Minecraft was just a game about punching trees and avoiding green, exploding phallic nightmares. That was until I woke up staring at a perfectly square sun, holding a rough wooden sword with a glowing translucent screen floating in front of my face. Welcome to the overworld. User number 404. Unique soul trait detected. Transmutation. Projecti system initialized. Current EMC 0. Wait, I muttered, looking down at my blocky, pixelated hands. Projecti? As in the equivalent exchange mod? You got to be kidding me. In a normal survival world, you have to mine for hours to get a single diamond. But if this system meant what I thought it meant, the laws of conservation of mass were about to become my best friend, and the economy of this world was about to completely collapse. The alchemy of dirt. The first rule of survival in this blocky hellscape is simple: shelter before nightfall. But while other summoned heroes were frantically tearing their fingernails out trying to punch down oak trees, I stood in front of a dirt cliffside with a smirk. I punched a single block of dirt. It popped into my inventory with a satisfying pop. System notification. Item learned. Dirt, 1 EMC. Current transmutation pool, 1 EMC. Item. Learned oak log, 32 EMC. With a mental command, I converted 32 of my stored dirt EMC into a perfectly formed oak log. Then another. Instantly, I had wood without ever needing to punch a tree. Hey, you there! I turned around to see a girl sprinting toward me. She wore iron-reinforced leather armor, a heavy iron sword strapped to her waist, and a look of absolute exhaustion. Her silver hair was tied back, but caked in dust. "Are you insane?" she panted, grabbing my shoulder. "Night is falling in 5 minutes. The creepers and phantoms will tear you apart if you're standing out in the open. Come to our settlement, quickly." Thanks. "But I'm actually just finishing up my house," I said, waving a hand casually. She looked around at the empty, flat clearing. "With what? You don't even have an axe." "Watch and learn, Silverhair." I opened my interface. I had spent the last hour converting gathered cobblestone, 1 EMC each, into raw energy. My total balance was sitting at a comfortable 4,000 EMC. I searched the transmutation registry for something I had scavenged from an abandoned surface chest earlier. Target: obsidian. Cost: 64. Raw EMC. Click. 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 In a shower of dark purple sparks, 3 dozen blocks of blast-resistant, pitch-black obsidian materialized in my hands. The girl's eyes went wider than standard texture pack parameters. What? How are you holding that? Where did you get obsidian? You need a diamond pickaxe to... Before she could finish her sentence, I rapidly placed the blocks, building a sleek, blast-proof, Enderman-resistant bunker in under 30 seconds. I popped a torch, 4 EMC, onto the wall, lighting up the interior. "Step into my parlor," I said, bowing deeply. "I'm Ren. And you are?" "Alisa," she whispered, stepping inside and touching the indestructible, volcanic glass walls. She looked at me like I was a god or a demon. "What kind of forbidden magic is this?" "It's not magic," I grinned, pulling a freshly transmuted cooked pork chop out of thin air and handing it to her. "It's just fair trade." The philosopher's flex. It had been 3 weeks since Alisa found me. In that time, I learned that this world wasn't just a game. It was a brutal survival reality where thousands of people had been trapped. Resources were scarce. The diamond cartels ruled the nearby safe zones, hoarding precious gems and charging newcomers exorbitant amounts of iron just for a chance to look at a brewing stand. Today, Alisa and I were standing at the gates of Oakhaven, the largest trade hub in the sector. We were here to buy a specific item I needed to unlock the next tier of my system, a single glowstone dust. "Remember, Ren?" Alisa whispered nervously, adjusting her cowl. The cartel guards are ruthless. Don't flash your weird item spawning trick. If they think you're a hacker, they'll execute you. Relax. I'm just a humble merchant today, I lied. We walked into the bustling market square. At the center stood a pompous man in full diamond armor, gleaming blue and obnoxious. He was surrounded by thugs. This was Marcus, the local cartel boss. "Glowstone dust!" Marcus shouted to the crowd of impoverished players. "Straight from a dangerous nether expedition. Only 50 iron ingots per pinch. No bartering." The crowd groaned. 50 iron ingots took days of dangerous cave diving to find. I stepped forward. 50 iron? That's a bit steep for literal glowing rock poop, don't you think? The market went dead silent. Elisa slapped her forehead in despair. Marcus turned slowly, his diamond helmet catching the sunlight. "And who are you supposed to be? A greenhorn who thinks he can mock the cartel? If you can't afford it, get in the mines." "Oh, I can afford it," I said, reaching into my satchel. I pulled out a stack of 64 iron blocks, not ingots. Blocks. The collective gasp from the crowd sounded like a vacuum cleaner. EMC math. 1 iron ingot equals 256 EMC 1 iron block equals 2,304 EMC 64. Iron blocks equals 147,456 EMC. To me, this was just the result of throwing a few chests worth of excess cobblestone and rotten flesh into my personal transmutation pool. To Marcus, this was a king's ransom. Where did you get that?" Marcus stammered, dropping his tough guy act. His eyes locked onto the gleaming metal cubes. "I'll take 3 pieces of glowstone," I said, tossing one of the iron blocks at his feet. It hit the dirt with a heavy thud. "Keep the change." Marcus scrambled to pick it up, eagerly handing over the yellow dust. "Pleasure doing business with you, sir. If you ever need diamond." "I won't," I interrupted. I turned my back on him, walking back toward Elisa. As soon as we were out of sight in a side alley, I placed the glowstone dust into my transmutation table interface. Item learned. Glowstone dust, 384 EMC. System alert, alchemical tier 2, unlocked. Recipe available, philosopher's stone. A wicked grin spread across my face. Iron blocks were child's play. Once I crafted the philosopher's stone, I wouldn't even need the interface to reshape reality. I could turn the very dirt beneath Marcus's feet into gold with a wave of my hand. "Ren," Elisa said, her voice trembling as she watched a strange crimson energy begin to crackle around my fingertips. "What are you planning to do next?" I looked up at the blocky sky, visualizing the Ender Dragon, waiting in the distant end dimension. "I'm going to buy out this world, Elisa, 1 block at a time." The covalents collapse. "Ren, you're insane," Elisa muttered, practically dragging me into the shadow of a decaying stone watchtower on the outskirts of Oakhaven. "You just humiliated Marcus in front of the entire market. He controls the only known iron mine in 3 sectors. He's going to put a price on our heads." "Let him," I said, leaning casually against the mossy cobblestone. I opened my palm, letting the tiny grains of glowstone dust float into the transmutation table's holographic interface. Item consumed. Glowstone dust. New recipe synthesized. Low covalence dust. Warning. Creating philosopher's stone requires a stable fuel matrix. Transmutation successful. Plus 12 EMC. Material exchanged. Cobblestone, 1 EMC to glass, 1 EMC. Fuel spent, 0 EMC. Equivalent mass maintained. "He's an enchanter, a high-tier glitch," the scarred thug panicked, dropping his crossbow entirely. "Fall back! Fall back!" The 3 of them scrambled over each other, sprinting back toward the safety of the market square, as if Hero Brian himself was chasing them. Eliza slowly lowered her sword, staring at the perfectly smooth, transparent tower that used to be solid stone. She walked over, tapping the glass with her hilt. It rang out with a crisp, fragile sound. "You didn't just spawn something," she whispered, her eyes wide with a mixture of awe and terror. "You changed the world. You changed the blocks themselves." "Exactly," I said, turning away from the glass tower and looking toward the dark forest in the distance, where the red eyes of spiders were beginning to blink in the twilight. "And we're going to need a lot more than glass if we're going to take down the cartel. Come on, Elisa, it's time to build a factory." The Nether's monopoly. Within 48 hours, Oakhaven was in chaos. Word had spread like wildfire about the alchemist who could turn stone to glass and throw around stacks of iron blocks like they were pocket change. Marcus had locked down the city gates, imposing a curfew. No one was allowed in or out without being searched for illegal transmutational artifacts. But Marcus was thinking like a player. I was thinking like a developer. Deep in a hidden cave system, miles away from the city, Elisa stood watch while I finished constructing a massive vertical frame made of the obsidian I had generated on our first night. "Are you sure about this?" Elisa asked, her voice echoing in the damp cavern. "The Nether is a death trap. The monsters there don't drop normal loot. They're aggressive, fast, and the terrain is literally made of fire and hellstone." "I know," I said, striking a piece of flint and steel against the base of the frame. "Boom!" A swirling column of purple energy erupted within the obsidian frame, casting eerie, distorted shadows across the cave walls. The portal hummed with a low, vibrating frequency that made my teeth rattle. "But the Nether has something the overworld doesn't," I said, stepping up to the portal's edge. "Netherrack. It's practically infinite, easy to mine, and most importantly, it has a baseline EMC value. If I can automate the collection of netherrack, I'll have an infinite energy loop." "And what do I do?" Elisa asked, stepping up beside me, her grip tightening on her sword. I looked at her and smiled, pulling out a brand-new set of armor I had spent the afternoon refining. It wasn't bulky like iron, or obnoxiously bright like Marcus's diamond gear. It was a sleek, deep crimson alloy, shimmering with an unnatural dark energy. Item: alchemical red matter chestplate. Cost: 458,752 EMC. Properties: structural invulnerability, kinetic absorption. "You," I said, tossing the heavy armor to her, "are going to make sure nothing interrupts my mining speed. Let's go break the Nether." Without waiting for her reply, I stepped forward into the purple vortex, letting the pixelated reality of the overworld dissolve around me. Would you like to continue with Chapter 5, where Ren and Elisa establish their first automated EMC farm in the Nether? Or is there a specific plot point you'd like to introduce next? The red-stained engine. The Nether was exactly the kind of unmitigated nightmare Elisa had warned me about. The air tasted like sulfur and ash. The horizon was a jagged maze of blood-red netherrack, and the sound of distant crying ghasts echoed through the cavernous ceilings. But where she saw an inhospitable wasteland, I saw a gold mine. Literally. "Stay close, Ren," Elisa shouted over the crackle of a nearby lava fall. She stood at the edge of our makeshift cobblestone platform, her new red matter armor pulsing with a menacing crimson hue. A pack of zombie piglins had caught our scent, but with her new gear, she was a blur of absolute destruction. A stray fire charge from a high-flying ghast screeched toward us. Elisa didn't even flinch. She simply swung her newly transmuted red matter sword, cutting the fireball completely in half. The kinetic absorption properties of her armor swallowed the explosion whole, converting the blast into a harmless puff of smoke. "Take your time, Elisa. I'm just getting started," I called back. I knelt down, pressing my hands against the crimson stone beneath my feet. "Target netherrack. Value 1 EMC per block." In a normal game, you'd need automated quarry mods or thousands of TNT blocks to strip mine an area this fast. But with Tier 2 unlocked and my transmutation matrix tuned to the local geography, I didn't need machinery. I was the machine. Energy condenser UI open, I muttered under my breath. A massive, spectral chest materialized in front of me. I linked its output target to a single, pristine diamond. Consume and convert, I commanded, slamming my hands into the ground. A wave of purple transmutational energy rippled outward from my palms like an earthquake. The netherrack beneath us began to dissolve, sucked straight into the vacuum of my system's inventory. Hundreds of blocks, thousands of blocks. Whole cliff sides of hellstone vanished into thin air, leaving behind massive, square voids in the terrain. System notification. Blocks. Consumed 8,192 netherrack. 8,192 EMC. Conversion target diamond. 8,192 EMC. Condensation complete. 1 times diamond generated. A sharp ting echoed in my mind as a flawless, glittering blue diamond popped out of the condenser interface and floated into my hand. I started laughing. It took the Oakhaven cartel weeks of dangerous subterranean mining, losing dozens of workers to cave-ins and monsters, just to unearth a handful of these gems. It had taken me exactly 45 seconds of kneeling in the nether to make one out of literal garbage stone. "Ren, we got a problem," Alyssa yelled, her voice cutting through my celebration. I looked up. The sky wasn't just filled with ghasts anymore. 3 massive, 3-headed skeletal figures were floating down from the upper ceiling, their bodies woven from dark soul sand and withered bones. "Withers?" I gasped. "3 of them. They don't spawn naturally." "Marcus," Elisa spat, parrying a stray wither skull that exploded against her armor. "He must have used his entire horde of black market wither skulls to spawn them here. He knew we came to the nether." From across the cavern, standing on a distant fortress bridge, safely out of aggression range, a familiar figure in glowing diamond armor waved mockingly. It was Marcus. "Enjoy the boss fight, Glitcher." Marcus's voice amplified across the cavern through a megaphone-like chat artifact. "Let's see your little item tricks survive the wither effect. When you drop dead, your inventory belongs to the cartel." The 3 withers let out a synchronized, blood-curdling screech, the air turning toxic as the eye darkened. The ground beneath us began to decay under their passive aura. Alisa braced her feet, her red matter sword humming with power, but even she looked pale. "Ren, 3 at once is too much. The wither decay will bypass our armor's physical defense. We need to retreat to the portal." "Retreat? To a guy who just brought a boss fight to a sandbox economy?" I smiled, a cold, dangerous feeling washing over me. I tossed the freshly minted diamond into the air and caught it. Marcus thinks he's playing a survival game. It's time to remind him that I'm playing creative mode. I opened the transmutation table, my fingers flying across the holographic screen, as I fed the diamond back into the pool, maximizing my available EMC balance. "Alisa, hold the line for exactly 10 seconds, I said, my voice dropping to a deadly calm. "I'm about to craft something that breaks the rules entirely." Chapter 6. Decline Awakening. The air grew heavy as the withers began their descent, charging their exploding skulls. Alisa sprinted forward, her crimson armor trailing light, as she leaped into the air to intercept the first boss, her blade clashing against its dark shield. Behind her, I wasn't looking at the monsters. I was looking at the system store. Required components for Klein Star Omeg. 4 times Mobius fuel, 2,048 EMC each. 4 times diamond blocks, 73,728 EMC each. Current available balance, 350,000 EMC. Synthesize, I whispered. The interface flared with a light so bright, it briefly drowned out the ambient red glow of the nether. The diamond blocks and alchemical fuels melted together in a violent swirl of mathematics and magic, condensing down into a single spherical artifact that hovered over my palm. It looked like a star trapped inside a crystalline lattice, pulsing with a deep, infinite purple resonance. Item Klein Star, Omega status fully charged, 500,000 EMC capacity. Marcus, I shouted, my voice carrying over the explosions. The cartel boss stopped his celebrating, squinting across the cavern at me. What? Still alive? You wanted to see my little item trick? I gripped the Klein Star, feeling the raw, unadulterated mass of 500,000 blocks flowing through my veins. Let me show you what happens when you anger the guy who controls the market. I pointed the star directly at the leading wither. Subroutine, hyperkinetic discharge. A beam of pure, white-hot transmutational energy erupted from the star. It didn't just damage the wither, it targeted the very code of its existence. The boss's health bar didn't drain, it completely vanished. The massive, world-threatening monster dissolved into a cloud of glittering white dust in less than a second. Target deleted. Plus 1 times nether star, 131,072 EMC. The remaining 2. Withers stopped midair, their artificial intelligence seemingly breaking as their companion was deleted from reality. Marcus fell to his knees on the distant bridge, his diamond helmet slipping off his head and tumbling into the lava below. Impossible, Marcus whimpered, his voice echoing through the chat channel. That's a raid boss. You can't just one-shot a raid boss. I didn't one-shot it, I said, stepping forward as the nether star floated into my hand, instantly doubling my system's power. I bought it. And now, Marcus, I'm buying your cartel. The hostile takeover. The remaining 2 withers didn't even get a chance to roar. With the nether star from the first boss already processed into my system, my available EMC pool spiked into the stratosphere. I casually raised the Klein Star a second time, swept the blinding white beam across the cavern, and deleted them from the server's history. Target deleted, total EMC added, plus 262,144 EMC system notification. Energy collector MK3 operational. Generating 3,840 EMC per minute. Output target, diamond blocks. I stood up, stretching my arms as the machine quietly began to spit out compressed blocks of solid diamond into a nearby iron chest. What's the plan now, Ren? Elisa asked, leaning against the cave wall, watching the blue gems stack up with a look of stunned complacency. She was getting used to my madness. Now we go to Oakhaven's Grand Market, I smiled, tossing a freshly generated diamond block from hand to hand. We're going to give the players of this world their economic freedom back. And we're going to do it by causing the worst hyperinflation crisis this server has ever seen. The crash of Oakhaven, the central plaza of Oakhaven, was tense, with Marcus missing in action and rumors of a glitcher spreading through the lower ranks. The remaining cartel elite had brought out heavy reinforcement. Dozens of guards in enchanted iron armor stood in a defensive perimeter around the trading stalls, their crossbows loaded. The middle-class players and lower-tier crafters were whispering in hushed tones, barred from trading unless they paid a new security tariff of 5 iron ingots just to enter the market. "Make way!" a calm voice echoed from the main thoroughfare. The crowd parted instantly. Walking down the cobblestone street was me, wearing my basic teal shirt and blue jeans, looking like a total default skin, But right beside me walked Alyssa, clad in the terrifying, pulsing red matter armor, a massive crimson broadsword resting casually on her shoulder. The sheer kinetic pressure radiating from her gear made the nearby torches flicker wildly. "Stop right there!" one of the cartel lieutenants shouted, his voice cracking as he raised the diamond sword. "This market is closed by order of the—" "I'm not here to fight you," I interrupted, stepping into the center of the plaza. "I'm here to do some charity work." I opened my inventory interface, linking it directly to the massive storage chest back at our cave base, the one connected to my energy collector MK3 array. "Attention, citizens of Oakhaven!" I called out, my voice easily carrying across the square. "The cartel has been charging you 50 iron ingots for a pinch of glowstone. They've been hoarding diamonds to keep you weak, forcing you to mine for scraps while they live in fortresses. Well, today, the monopoly is officially over." With a flick of my wrist, I pulled a solid block of diamond from my UI and tossed it onto the dirt. Thud. Before anyone could process what they were looking at, I pulled out another, and another, and another. Within seconds, I was rapidly pulling stacks of diamond blocks from my interface, dumping them onto the ground like a casual dump truck unloading gravel. The glittering sky-blue cubes began to pile up, forming a massive mountain of pure wealth right in front of the main trading post. Market visuals, total diamond blocks, dumped 576, a full double chest. Equivalent ingot value, 5,184 raw diamonds. Total energy value, 42,467,328 EMC. What are you doing?" the cartel lieutenant shrieked, dropping his sword entirely as he stared at a mountain of wealth that eclipsed the entire server's economy. "You're destroying the value. If everyone has diamonds, they're worth nothing." "Exactly," I grinned. "Go ahead, everyone. Take as much as you can carry. Craft your armor. Make your tools. Go to the nether. The sandbox belongs to everyone now." The crowd stared in absolute disbelief for 3 seconds. Then a mad scramble erupted. Players bypassed the armed guards entirely, throwing themselves at the mountain of blue blocks, screaming with joy as their inventories filled with the highest-tier material in the game. The cartel guards tried to push them back, but it was like trying to stop a tidal wave with a wooden shield. Alisa watched the chaos, a small, amused smile tugging at the corner of her lips. "You really did it, Ren. You didn't just beat them. You made their entire empire completely irrelevant." "This is just step one, Alyssa," I said, and turning away from the rioting market, as my system UI pinged with a massive Tier 3 achievement notification. "Now that the server's economy is flatlined, we can finally focus on the real goal." I looked up at the blocky sky where the distant square moon was beginning to rise. "It's time to build a portal to the end, and I'm buying the dragon." The stronghold. With Oakhaven's economy completely upended, Alisa and I left the chaotic celebration behind. The sky-blue mountain of diamonds was still being picked apart by ecstatic players when we entered the deep forest, guided by a compass I had modified with a slight transmutational tracking matrix. "You said we're going to the end," Alyssa said, her footsteps heavy but confident in her crimson armor. "But finding a stronghold usually takes weeks of tossing Eyes of Ender and mapping out the trajectories. Do you even have enough Ender Pearls?" "Ender Pearls? Enderman hunts, please," I scoffed, adjusting the straps on my inventory bag. "That's old-school survival thinking. Why hunt monsters when you can just synthesize their essence?" I popped open the holographic transmutation table interface. Earlier in our journey, I had killed a single Enderman that glitched into our base, recording its drop into my system memory. Item registered Ender Pearl, 1024 EMC. Item registered Blaze rod, 1536 EMC. Synthesis configuration, Eye of Ender, 1792 EMC. With a massive bank of millions of EMC generated from our netherrack automated condenser array, I didn't just craft a few eyes. I tapped the screen repeatedly. Click, click, click. A pristine, glowing stack of 64 eyes of Ender materialized in my palm, their green, cat-like irises pulsing with a strange, cosmic fire. I have enough eyes to build 100 portals, Alyssa, I grinned, tossing one into the air. It didn't fly forward to track a stronghold. Instead, I fed it directly into my modified tracking compass. The needle spun wildly before locking dead north, glowing with a bright emerald light. And according to this, the nearest stronghold is exactly 800 blocks away, directly beneath an abandoned village. The end of the sandbox. An hour of brisk walking brought us to the ruins of a moss-covered desert settlement. Beneath the stone floor of the village well, we dug down, or rather, I transmuted a massive 3x3 vertical shaft of smooth stone into nothingness, creating a perfectly clean elevator shaft leading straight into the dark, mossy brick corridors of the ancient stronghold. We navigated the labyrinth easily, bypassing silverfish spawners by simply converting the monster-infested bricks into harmless, cracked stone. Within minutes, we stood before the grand chamber. There it was, a massive, broken stone frame hovering over a pool of bubbling green acid. The end portal. It's missing 9 eyes, Alyssa noted, stepping up to the stone frame. The players on this server always whispered about the end, but the cartel guarded the coordinates, so no one could ever challenge the dragon and claim the Electro Wings. Well, the cartel isn't here to stop us, I said. I walked along the rim of the frame, casually slotting 9 glowing eyes of Ender into the empty receptacles. With the final placement, a deep cosmic roar echoed through the chamber. The pool of acid beneath the frame vanished, replaced by a swirling, absolute void of pitch-black space, speckled with distant, blocky stars. The portal was open. "Are you ready to beat the game, Ren?" Alisa asked, her red matter sword humming with absolute power. "Beat it," I chuckled, looking down into the starry void before turning to her with a wide, confident grin. "Alyssa, we're not just here to slay a dragon. We're here to harvest its raw, energetic code. Once I put the Ender Dragon's drops into the transmutation table, we won't just control the economy of this world." I stepped over the edge, letting myself fall backward into the cosmic void. "We'll control the reality of it." Entering the end grid. Falling through the end portal wasn't a standard teleportation loading screen. It felt like dropping through cold, gelatinous data. My boots finally hit solid ground. The texture beneath me wasn't dirt or stone. It was the pale, gritty, pitted surface of end stone. System notification. Location discovered. The end dimension. Atmospheric threat. Low. Local resource value. End stone. 4 EMC. Mass liquidation. Complete. Plus 10,240 times obsidian. 655,360 EMC. Plus 10 times ender crystals. 92,160 EMC. Total available system pool, 32,450,112 EMC. The Ender Dragon shrieked, its majestic flight pattern suddenly faltering as the healing beams from the crystal snapped out of existence. It hovered mid-air, its AI visibly struggling to adapt to a reality where its entire defensive network had been deleted in under 3 seconds. "Marcus thought he brought a boss fight to a sandbox," I laughed, a manic, confident energy surging through me as the dragon began its desperate final dive bomb straight toward us. But I didn't come here to beat the game, Alyssa. I came here to own it. The final valuation. The massive dragon rocketed down from the sky, its jaws wide, a massive ball of lingering purple dragon breath charging in its throat. The sheer kinetic force of its descent whipped up a gale of void dust. "Ren, stand back!" Elisa yelled, leaping in front of me. She slammed her crimson shield into the dirt, bracing for impact, as her armor flared with maximum kinetic absorption. "I'll take the brute force blow. You prepare the finishing macro." "No need to take damage, Alyssa," I said, stepping up right beside her. I didn't draw a sword. I didn't pull out an enchanted bow. Instead, I reached into my system inventory and pulled out the ultimate artifact of the equivalent exchange system. A weapon crafted from the distilled essence of 100,000 blocks, glowing with a deep, unstable red light. Item, the hyperkinetic Morningstar. Recipe, red matter tools plus Klein star. Matrix value, 12,582,912 EMC properties. Absolute matter fracture. Creative tier attack vector. As the Ender Dragon reached a distance of 10 blocks, its glowing purple eyes reflecting in my glasses, I swung the heavy, alchemical Morningstar forward in a simple, casual arc. The weapon didn't even make physical contact with the beast's snout. The moment the Morningstar cut through the air, a massive, localized tear in the dimension opened up. A shockwave of pure crimson energy exploded outward, completely shattering the dragon's hitboxes. The boss didn't just take damage. Its entire health bar flashed white, instantly draining from 100% to absolute zero. Boom! The dragon stopped dead in its tracks, its massive wings locking up. Then, like a standard Minecraft boss death on absolute overdrive, beams of blinding white light began to violently erupt from inside its pixelated scales. It shrieked one final time, its body disintegrating into a massive, cascading fountain of glowing green experience orbs and a single, heavy black egg that tumbled onto the bedrock portal frame below. Server alert. The Ender Dragon has been defeated. Unique drops. Learned Dragon Egg. 262,144 EMC. System alert. Server core registry unlocked. A massive, glowing text box materialized in front of my face, completely bypassing the standard game interface. It wasn't the Free the End achievement. It was something much bigger. Congratulations, user number 404. You have achieved infinite economic mass. Would you like to initiate the administrator takeover protocol? Elisa slowly lowered her shield, her jaw completely slack as she stared at the empty, quiet void sky, then at the glowing administrative prompt floating in front of me. The glowing green experience points were flowing into my character like a literal river of light. "Ren," she whispered, her voice trembling with realization. You just unlocked the back end of the entire world." "I told you from the start, Alyssa," I smiled, walking over to the bedrock portal and casually picking up the heavy, glowing dragon egg, tossing it lightly into the air before registering it into my transmutation table. A sandbox world only works if resources are limited. The moment you introduce equivalent exchange, the game is officially over. I looked down at the administrative prompt, my finger hovering over the Yes button. Let's rewrite the server. The sandbox overhaul. My finger hovered over the glowing, holographic Yes prompt. The moment I pressed down, the silent void of the end exploded into a deafening roar of mechanical code. The pitch-black sky shattered like glass, peeling away to reveal towering lines of glowing, cascading green matrix scripts that hummed with pure server power. System notification. Administrator rights granted. Server core registry. Linked to user number 404. Current server balance, infinite EMC, global server announcement. All resource monopolies dissolved. Transmutation matrix distributed into all users. Baseline EMC economy initialized. You're giving the equivalent exchange system to everyone? Elisa asked, her violet eyes wide with a mixture of awe and panic. Ren, if everyone can turn dirt into iron, the entire world will change. People won't need to fight for territory anymore. Exactly, I smiled, stepping up to the newly transformed white portal frame. I held out my hand, and the heavy black dragon egg floated up into the air, dissolving into a stream of pure raw data that permanently registered its unique essence into the server's global blueprint registry. In a normal sandbox, power goes to whoever hoards the rarest blocks. But from today on, power goes to whoever builds the best ideas. No more artificial scarcity. We're turning this survival hellscape back into what it was always meant to be, a place to create. I turned back to look at her, a confident grin on my face, ready to see what the rest of the world looks like when anyone can build a castle out of thin air. Elisa walked up beside me, sheathing her pulsing red blade. I think it's going to be absolute beautiful chaos, Ren. Then let's go manage the market, I laughed. Hand in hand, we stepped through the blinding white light of the admin portal, ready to step into a completely rewritten world where the sandbox was finally truly free. The end, for now.